So we're going to start promptly at 1:45 on the policy block. And the policy that's up for the afternoon is recommended draft policy ARIN-2017-3, update to NPRM 3.6, annual Whois POC validation. Okay, now we'll start. So the history of this proposal is that it was ARIN policy proposal 239 submitted in March of last year, advanced to draft policy in March, recognizing that it had a clear problem statement at that time. It was advanced to recommended draft policy in February 2018. It was presented at ARIN 39 and ARIN 40. The Shepherds are Amy Potter and Alyssa Moore. The draft policy establishes specific Whois points of contact that are required to be verified annually. It identifies organizations that are covered by the policy by the type of resources it holds, direct assignments, direct allocations, AS numbers, or reallocation. And it excludes reassignments made to downstream end-user customers. It defines the procedure to follow so that the POCs are verified annually through an email notification, instructs ARIN staff to mark POC records deemed completely and permanently abandoned or otherwise illegitimate as invalid, directs action to be taken if the admin or tech POC has been marked invalid. Staff comments, quite a few. Section 365 is unclear regarding the scope of the impact to an organization with non-responsive POCs. Any organization lacking a validated tech or admin POC will be unable to access the full suite of functionality. Fails to specify what the full suite of functionality, what's the allowed or prohibited subset. We can guess, but we probably need some guidance. We'll guess, our interpretation will be, if it's not otherwise changed, will be that an organization without at least a validated admin or tech POC will only be able to access payment and contact update functionality regardless of the contact used for access. So they'll be able to access their payments, because we like payments, and they'll be able to update their contact information so they're no longer an invalid contact. Presumably that'll get them to get to a validated contact to get to the rest of the functionality. For organizations that have at least one valid admin or tech contact, the organization will be able to access full functionality, even if access is via one of its other non-responsive POCs. So as long as there is a valid POC on the organization, it will be allowed to have functionality. If instead the desired outcome is that only validated POCs may access full functionality, we need to have this made explicit to that effect. The proposed policy does not impact ARIN's ability to provide ongoing registry services, only the ability of impacted organizations to make changes to their number of resources. It can be implemented as written. There's no material legal issues. Resource implementation would take about 3 months, requiring updated guidelines, staff training, and some engineering work. So I will now have someone come up. Amy, yes, Amy. Amy, come up and give the AC presentation on this.
All right, thanks, John. So this policy proposal deals with the problem of inaccurate and out-of-date information contained in point-of-contact records. You're going to hear another proposal after this one that deals with a very similar problem of ensuring that accurate information is provided at the time that these point-of-contacts are being created. But this proposal deals strictly with point-of-contact records and inaccuracies in those records that are already contained in Whois. So the current policy text attempts to deal with this problem by sending out an annual validation email to every POC in Whois. Each POC has 60 days to reply, and unresponsive POCs are marked as such in the database. If staff deems a point of contact to be completely and permanently abandoned or otherwise illegitimate, the POC shall be marked as invalid. So despite the attempts of the current policy text, there's still a huge problem with inaccurate POC information in Whois, which is how this policy came about. We presented the first draft of this policy proposal 2 ARINs ago. That draft sought to improve the current process by limiting the scope of point of contacts that were involved in the email validation process. Instead of going out to every POC in the database, it would only go out to the tech admin and abuse point of contacts for organizations that hold direct assignments, direct allocations, AS numbers, and reallocations. So it does not apply to reassignments. The first draft also attempted to add some teeth to this process. So point of contacts that didn't respond to the validation email within 60 days are marked as non-responsive. After an additional 90 days, and after ARIN staff has gone through thorough research and analysis, they will mark these POCs as non-validated, abandoned, or otherwise illegitimate as invalid, and these records would then be taken out of reverse DNS and their associated resources removed from public Whois. The feedback that we received from the community about this first draft was that it was far too extreme and they wanted us to pare it back a bit. That brought about the second draft. The second draft maintained the same limitations about the scope of the participants to the validation email as the first draft, but it takes a less extreme approach to providing teeth. So point of contacts that don't respond within 60 days are marked as non-responsive. After an additional 90 days, thorough research and analysis, ARIN staff marks the non-validated, abandoned, or otherwise illegitimate POCs as invalid. Organizations lacking a valid tech or admin POC would lose access to their ARIN online account until a tech or admin POC had been validated. There were a couple of issues that the community brought back from this draft. They thought that the first problem statement that was presented was a little unwieldy and they wanted it pared back. And there were also some issues with the language for the enforcement mechanism that was included. So we addressed the first issue by simplifying the problem statement to say that many of the point of contacts listed in ARIN's public Whois database contain out-of-date and inaccurate information. We went through a couple of different drafts for the language of the enforcement mechanism. This current draft actually came about after the staff and legal that John read earlier. So the current text says that, or the current proposed text says that an invalid POC is restricted to payment and contact update functionality within ARIN Online. As a result, an organization without any valid POCs will be unable to access further functionalities within ARIN Online until at least one admin or tech POC validates their information is accurate or modifies a POC to contain accurate information. So our questions to you now are we satisfied with the current new language? And is there anything else?
All right, let's get this party started and open those microphones. Come on. Some remote participant first. I think that is a first. Somebody must have pre-typed that comment.
Yes, this is from Jason Schiller, Google ASOAC. Oppose as written. Support if implementation on reduced annual POC validation is delayed until 1 year after all new POC creation requires an ACK from the new POC. 2017-12 meets this requirement.
Okay, thank you for that. Front microphone.
So
Sorry, Joe.
Owen DeLong, speaking for myself, ARIN-AC. I'll first support what Jason said, absolutely. Secondly, I think there's still problems with the language regarding the consequences, because POCs don't log into ARIN Online, organizations don't log into ARIN Online, individuals log into ARIN Online, and ARIN Online accounts are associated with one or more POCs and one or more org IDs. As I understand it, a POC is only associated with one ARIN Online account, not that there is no many-to-many correlation there.
John, do you want to clarify that that's
So-
in fact the case?
I think I know what you're getting at. The point is that the functionality with respect to that organization would be as restricted in the policy. We can implement it as written. We don't need policy that represents web user IDs.
Okay.
That is the, I know it's in the staff assessment. I hear what you're saying. It's a different,
It's, yeah.
you don't log in as a POC.
I would prefer to have policy language that explicitly stated how it would be
implemented.
taking effect, because I understand staff knows how to interpret that and translate it into ARIN Online functionality. I'm not sure when it gets into the NRPM that it necessarily sinks into everybody else's brain such that the expectation set equals the action taken. And so I have concerns over that.
Sure,
So,
the
but
problem, if I could just respond
Okay.
to. So the problem with going more so is that you end up with system implementation language in the NRPM, because right now we allow web IDs, okay, and web IDs are your login, and they aren't necessarily associated with an organization, and therefore they're not associated with any POCs. If we actually attempt to specify that, then changes to our systems could break policy language, which would be unfortunate.
Yes, I have a proposal that I think would resolve this.
So
if
can I, what I was going to suggest is that it just sounds like what you're asking for is could the staff analysis just get a little more deep on how they would deploy it so that if there was
No,
feedback on-
I'm asking that the language of the policy be modified to be brought more in line with the actual
Well, then
consequences.
John's concern would be his concern for sure on that then, yes.
John's concern is valid if I wasn't going to propose what I'm going to propose.
Do you wish to propose it right now, or do you wish to?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I was intending to propose is that I think it would be more useful if the policy specified that an ARIN Online user associated with an invalid or unverified POC is unable to proceed until after they answer yes or no to whether that POC is valid when they log in.
John, I don't think the remote participants can fully appreciate the shaking of your head. Did you want to respond to that, or? I'm just thinking the remote participants, John.
So crafting language here on the floor is an interesting exercise. I would say that what you propose has a lot of interesting implications. I think it would probably require a discussion, but the short version is whether someone validates that a contact is valid or not doesn't mean it's actually valid if all the contact information still doesn't work. So we need to tease that out a bit. The desire is that the POC is actually a valid POC and it has approachable contact information. You saying number whatever 5551212 and example at domain.com is valid doesn't make it valid.
So before you respond, just to kind of echo that, certainly as the chair, I hear the change you're proposing, while valid, isn't a simple one that could be done on the floor. I think you're talking a text, another cycle of text if you want to.
I am talking another cycle of text,
Okay.
yes. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not in a rush to implement this as mentioned at the beginning. What I am saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, is that if the ARIN Online user associated with the POC logs into their ARIN Online account and clicks, yes, this is valid, that is no more or less than you get by them clicking, yes, this is valid in the email link you send out.
The email actually got sent out and was received by someone.
If they're logging into their ARIN Online account and you ask them to review this and say, yes, it's valid or not, by the way, that email also shows up as a message in their ARIN Online account, and they can click on that yes link from that too. So again, I argue that it's no more or less effective than the current process.
Okay, I think the feedback is taken and that you would not be supportive of the policy as written, so we'll go to our rear microphone. We have at least people at the microphones, that's good. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
No problem. Okay, so Hervé Clément Orange, a member of the NRO-NC, but speaking as co-author of the RIPE policy proposal, regular abuse validation. And so I wanted just to add my support to this proposal as described here.
Okay, thank you for that support. Front microphone, please.
Andrew Dahl, question around Jason Schiller's comment. Do we believe that is an implementation item, or is that something that requires a text change?
John?
Someone repeat the comment that Jason made?
Would you mind repeating the Jason comment?
His comment was, support if implementation on reduced annual POC validation is delayed until 1 year after all new POC creation requires an act from the new POC.
I think what he's saying is don't do the lockout until 1 year from the implementation date.
That's not what the policy text says.
So the answer would be no, that's an implementation. But
Implementation delay.
So it's not, it is an implementation question, or it's a policy we need to change the policy to make it fit Jason's requirement or
Well,
request?
the policy proposal, part of a policy proposal is the implementation date. So I think if
Right.
there was a desire to change that implementation date, I don't think staff would not do that. They might ask the board if the policy was proposed, and
Yeah.
the board may delay it if the staff had concerns, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think staff could just inevitably delay it.
Right. We don't have guidance to delay it. If the AC puts a comment in that says, please implement this as of this date, we'll do that. But by default, we implement the policies when they're adopted.
Yeah. I don't think it's a major change.
We've had implementation guidance from the AC. We follow it when we get it.
So the AC, in this case, could make an implementation note that would reflect the desire that Jason has illuminated.
And then that would direct staff would follow that, assuming
And
the
that's
policy
not a
was passed.
textual change to the NRPM text.
Right. You could make that change to the policy even after this meeting, if you so noted.
Okay. Thank you to the patient microphone at the back.
I know the back queue got,
Well,
passed up.
I distribute evenly, so, you know, if you can, when
That's
you're lying for a
fine.
microphone, look for an empty one.
so I'm Kathy Aronson. My question for you is, this all originated from the part of our community we call law enforcement, and I'm wondering, are they still okay with the current text? Have you been working with them?
There are,
Okay.
there are members here, and that they may or may not wish to speak, and I don't know if you
Okay,
want to
well,
comment.
maybe they could let us all know how they feel about this text if they're here. Okay, awesome, sorry.
Thank you. No, it's a lovely question. Rear microphone again.
Thank you. Allison Wood, State of Oregon, ARIN-AC. One thing I really like about this policy is that it does default to the abuse contact, because sometimes the POC is not going to respond, or the POC's email address goes to a certain inbox or special mailbox in their inbox. And with the abuse, it should be a monitored mailbox, and maybe that's going to take care of a big part of this problem.
So are you in support, sorry, or against, or no?
I am in support of this policy, and I look forward to the abuse piece of it taking care of a big part of the problem of incorrect POC entries.
Thank you. Remote participant, thank you.
Yeah, Jason wished to clarify, I mean, we've already covered this, but he said,
Yeah.
response to Andrew, no, I'm thinking an implementation detail, keep doing annual POC validations for all your POCs for 1 year until 1 year after POC Act is required. You can then do the lockout for POCs with direct immediately on passing.
Okay. Rear microphone while we process that.
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire. I support the policy as written. I do definitely support the concept of slowly implementing this as part of staff guidance, giving a little extra time. This is a little more, has it a little more impactful, I guess you could say. So that part of it's fine. The text itself is great. We've gone through 2 ARIN meetings. I think we've gone through a lot more ARIN meetings in terms of this general cleanup over the years. We need this policy done. Come up and fix it after the fact, but time's run out. We need this policy. My bigger concern is we just had a discussion on IRR features being directly implemented, probably through ARIN Online. And I don't want invalid orgs starting to put in validated IRR data. Most companies, you don't have valid information, you can pay your bill, you can clean up, and like what this policy says, and I don't think that is an unreasonable step, so I support this policy as written.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, first of all, if you wish to speak, please approach a mic. Also, if you want to, you support the text, but you have thoughts on the implementation date, I'm sure the AC would like to hear that for their deliberations, so there is some discussion here at the meeting on that topic. Rear microphone.
Hi, my name is Iranga Kahangama. I'm with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States. Been involved with this policy for a while now. I support the text of the policy as it's written, and I think it would be great to have a quicker implementation time. I think we've been working on this for a while, and that we realize, if you look at the original text, that we decided to break down some of the problems and take it in a piecemeal approach, and I think this is a really good attempt at a good chunk of the problem, and so I think it'd be really helpful from a law enforcement perspective to do this. Speaking in a personal and professional capacity, I guess, law enforcement's kind of facing a lot of issues on the domain side of the Whois, and I know that as these issues come up for our management, and as they actually realize the differences between the domain and IP as Whois, it would be really good to have a lot of momentum in terms of working with you guys and improving the IP side of the house. So appreciate the work. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you, Whois, for coming to our meeting to give the feedback. It's very appreciated. Any remote participant?
Was requested to be held until after the queue is drained.
Oh, okay. Well, please approach a microphone. I will be closing the microphones in about 1 minute if we start to run speakers. Rear microphone.
Yes, thank you. Chris Tassett, Tassett Law, ARIN-AC. I support the policy as written. I think we should implement it, try it out, and then if more tweaking is required, we can do it. But I echo Kevin's comments that this is a problem that needs to be resolved sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Okay. And I will be closing the microphone after the speaker, so please, and we have the queue already from the remote, so please approach the microphone before this gentleman speaks. Please
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jason Plump from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I support the policy, and not to just echo what Aranga said, but from a law enforcement perspective, this is an important aspect of our work, and we've been involved with this for the last couple of years to try to get this through to certainly help us do our job. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for that feedback. The microphones are now closed. We'll go to the rear microphone and then take the speaker that wanted to be left last. So.
Alyssa Moore with Cybera and one of the shepherds on the policy. I just had sort of a question or a response, I guess, to Owen's language recommendations. It is my feeling that the language the way it is preferable, and that it go to a mailbox is preferable, because part of the reason of having the point of contacts validate from the mailbox is because we need to have someone with a mailbox to reach in the event of abuse, and someone needs to be contacted.
But I think Owen's concern was those messages also appear online, so you might not need, that mailbox could be broken and you'd still get the message, is what he was saying.
But only if you're logging into your ARIN online account frequently.
But that doesn't necessarily, I think the point was, he says that doesn't validate the email works.
Right, but in the event of a request from law enforcement, for example, someone isn't logging into their ARIN online account at all times, you can still say, yes, this email address works if you're logging into your ARIN online account and just checking yes. But if some sort of request were to go to the email address associated with it for some other reason, then that's still there.
Okay.
We can talk about it tomorrow.
I think there'll be a vibrant discussion at the AC meeting. I look forward to hearing it. Let's go to the remote participant. I have closed the microphone, so if it is not in response to a point, all right.
First, Brian Jones, support as written. It's an individual comment. And
okay.
The previous comment from Jason Schiller, Google, ASOAC. In previous discussions, there was an idea that a POC could remain valid if there's a known contact with ARIN, e.g. a user opens a ticket with ARIN, calls help desks, attends ARIN meetings, etc.
Okay, thank you. The second last potential comment to you.
In response to Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire, an interesting services issue outside of the NRPM has really been brought up, which is that unique security style information is being put into ARIN Online when the purpose of it is to be email. Probably the suggestion is to remove out the unique URL in ARIN Online if the point of it is to validate the person's email address. It's a hole, it's a circle.
All right, you should follow up with me after here.
Yeah.
I want to go through that.
I do think there's a side threat to this,
Yes.
but it does sound like it might be potentially an implementation. Amy, any last word from you? No? Then we will thank Amy for her presentation and the lively discussion. We will now go to our poll. So this is a recommended draft policy, and I'll just clarify, because since we had a little more vibrant discussion than we've had on the other one, is that the question does relate to the text as it's here, not necessarily some of the stuff that's come up. That will have to be data the AC takes, so please take that into account within your, when you decide which way you will poll. So we will now poll on recommended draft policy 2017-3, update to NPRM 3.6, annual Whois POC validation. Would all those in favor of the proposal as presented, please raise your hand nice and high and keep it high. Second last audience participation of the meeting. Thank you. You may lower it. And all those opposed as written, please raise your hand. Obviously, and poll remotely if you can now. Please close off. Thank you. You can lower your hand. Once again, while we wait for the numbers, if you have comments, suggestions, feedback, Amy Potter and Alyssa Moore are the shepherds for this. Find them at the break. Find them after the meeting. Give them, or any local AC member. Please feel free to give any feedback that you weren't able to give at the microphone in person, because it is very important, and they will be meeting tomorrow after the break of the members meeting to try and piece all that data together. And here we go. All right. On recommended draft policy, ARIN-2017-3, update to NPRM 3.6. We had 93 in the room, 14 up, so that's good. The sugar got people back in the room. 39 in favor and 2 against. This will be provided to the AC. Thank you very much for your input.